Hey everybody, so we are continuing along with our season previews, and today we are going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers. Before we get into the video, I just quickly want to say that if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that like button. That really helps out with the channel a lot. And if you're not yet a subscriber to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and follow along for all the great hockey content. So the Edmonton Oilers, where to even begin with the Edmonton Oilers, who continue to waste Connor McDavid's greatness and have been really disappointing the last few years. And unfortunately for Oilers fans, I really don't see a whole lot changing with that this year, as I forgot the I in Jujhar Khaira's name. This team is just lacking. With the exception of the elite talent of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, both were 100-point players last year. This team is just, they're lacking. There's not enough there. And as we look at the lineup here, you're going to see that. And piecing together a lineup for this team, honestly, was extremely difficult. And take this lineup with a grain of salt. Because I really don't know what this lineup's going to look like outside of, their top players. There's a lot of spots in the bottom six that could be up for grabs, and guys could move up and down the lineup, and you don't know. And I use Cap Friendly and I use Daily Faceoff to try and piece together somewhat realistic line combinations. But putting a Edmonton Oilers lineup together with this roster is kind of difficult. Don't know what the fourth line's going to look like. Know that McDavid and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins are your top two centers, but you don't know who the third line center necessarily is going to be. Wings are up for grabs. There's a lot of potential for some other movement with this team, and some guys to get into the lineup, some guys not to be. But here's what I put together for at least placeholder line combinations here. Draisaitl, McDavid, and I think James Neal is going to get a shot on that top side right wing, just because I don't know who else they would put there. Maybe Alex Chiasson. He played there at points last year and had a 20-goal season last year. So maybe Chiasson gets the shot. But I think if you bring in a guy like James Neal, who had a horrible season last year with Calgary, only 7 goals all year long, and you brought him in to be hopefully a 20-goal scorer, you hope that this change of scenery, brings back the old James Neal. You got to, I think, at least give him a shot with Connor McDavid and see what he can do on that top line. So I think Neal's going to get a chance up there. I think Chiasson could end up playing up there at times. Both Cap Friendly and Daily Faceoff have Zach Kassian up there on that top line. Now, in my mind, Zach Kassian is not a top line player. He's a very good fourth liner. I like him as a bottom six guy. He's tough. He's my kind of player, but he is not a top line player. He just doesn't bring that level of offense in my mind. So I think James Neal will get a shot up there, meaning that the second line, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins obviously down the middle. That's about the only stable thing I think about this second line. No idea who's going to play the left side. I have Marcus Granlund there for now, although I think Granlund could end up being the third line center potentially. But I put Granlund up there for now because he's probably the best player, the most talented player to put in that spot. And then Chiasson on the right side. Third line then would put Jujhar Khaira as your third line center with Zach Kassian on one side and I guess Sam Gagner on the other. Gagner hasn't been all that great at the NHL level in a couple of years, but again, this team is not overly deep. Maybe Kyler Yamamoto finally gets it to stick. We'll talk more about him later. He's a guy I've been waiting to stick at the NHL level and just hasn't to this point. He only played 17 games last year. Fourth line, I guess if Jujhar Khaira, who normally would be your fourth line center, is up on the third line, then I guess Colby Cave becomes your fourth line center with Josh Archibald and Joakim Nygard on the left side. And I've never even heard of Nygard. I don't know anything about him, but both Cap Friendly and Daily Faceoff have him on as a regular on the fourth line, so I put him in there because I don't know who else would play that spot. This forward group, man, is just they're lacking offense. With the exception of McDavid, who gave you 115 points last year, and Draisaitl, who gave you 105, there's just not a whole lot of offense up there. Nugent Hopkins can be a 70-point guy. Maybe if he has a really good year, can get to 80 points. But as far as the wings go, there's just not a lot of secondary scoring on this team. And that's been a consistent problem and one of the biggest problems for this team. Certainly not the only issue. Moving on now to the defense, your top pair will be Oscar Klefbom and Adam Larsson. If they stay healthy, that could potentially be an okay top pair. Klefbom's really struggled to stay healthy. Larsson has not become the player that people thought he would when he was drafted so high by New Jersey. Just the defense in general is certainly a big problem for this team. Second defense pair, Darnell Nurse, and I have Evan Bouchard, first-round pick from 2018, slotting in on that on the right side there. They kind of need Bouchard to be ready. He played 6 games in the NHL last year, was not ready. They sent him back to junior to develop more, which obviously I 100% support and think is the right thing to do with young defensemen. But they really kind of need Evan Bouchard to be ready this year. If he's not, that's going to leave a huge hole in the top 4 if he can't stick at the NHL level. And that leaves Chris Russell and Matthew Benning as your bottom pair. Overall, this defense is very mediocre, and it has been for a number of years now, but very mediocre. Not really any high-end NHL-ready talent. They don't have that true number 1 offensive defenseman. That really just kind of average at best defense, and some really bad plus minuses on this team, especially on this defense core. And I don't, it's a major weak point on this team. And then we get to the goaltending, another weak point. Cam Talbot, who was supposed to be the long-term starter, in Edmonton, did not pan out. He had 1 good year, and that was pretty much it. They've moved on from him. He's now in Calgary as the backup. They have Mikko Koskinen, who at times looked pretty good last year, but at other times really did not. Played 55 games. His goals against average was almost 3, which is not what you want to see out of a starting goaltender. And they've brought in Mike Smith from Calgary. 37 years old now for Smith. He played 42 games last year. His save percentage was under 900, which is not good. And he got absolutely lit up by Colorado in the playoffs last year, which is not what you want to see. Now, that wasn't entirely on Mike Smith. The team in front of him in Calgary did not play very well in that series outside of the first game. And you certainly can't completely blame Mike Smith, but he did get lit up in the playoffs last year, and it was not really a good look for him. Calgary obviously was comfortable moving on from him and actually brought in Cam Talbot to replace him, which I think is an interesting move. But I don't really trust this goaltending duo to be, a top-end goaltending duo. I don't know if either of these guys are going to be a high-level NHL starter this year. And that, once again, is going to be a problem for Edmonton. So they don't have great secondary scoring. They don't have very good defense, and their defense is not deep at all. When you get past the top 6 guys, they're not deep at all defensively. And I don't trust their goaltending. So with this team, it really is the McDavid and Draisaitl show. And outside of that, they don't have a lot going for them. So I think it's going to be another long year in Edmonton, another disappointing year. As far as extra players, you have Kyler Yamamoto, who, again, for 2 seasons now, I've been waiting to see him stick at the NHL level, and he hasn't been able to. We've seen some really good preseasons out of him. We've seen some really good rookie tournaments out of him. And then you get to regular NHL action, and he's just not not good enough to stay in the regular lineup. Played 17 games with the team last year, only had 2 points. Not what you want to see. They have Kyle Brodziak, who is a veteran guy at this point at 35 years old. He's a fourth liner. He's nothing more than that. Not going to give you much offensively. Pretty good face-off guy, but he's kind of like a veteran locker room presence, fourth line, tough guy, but not going to give you anything offensively. And God, defensively, if you get injuries on this defense and outside of this top 6, where do you go? Well, I think Ethan Bear is a guy that I think that the team kind of wants to finally be NHL ready. Caleb Jones played some games at the NHL level last year and actually looked okay, at least put up some points. His plus-minus wasn't good, but the team was awful, so that's not really a surprise. Brandon Manning ended up getting waived last year and sent down to the minors. Maybe he comes back and earns a bottom pair spot or a 7th defenseman role. I don't know. They are just not deep defensively at all. This is a team that, once again, I think is going to struggle. It's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and what else? There's just nothing else there. They don't have secondary scoring. They don't have a good defense. Their goaltending is suspect. This is a team that has a long way to go before they're a consistent playoff contender in the NHL. And it's really sad to see because they are wasting Connor McDavid, who I think is without a doubt the best player in the NHL. He's the best pure talent in the NHL, and he's stuck on a really bad team that never seems to be able to get better. And that's really unfortunate. But those are my thoughts on the Edmonton Oilers this year. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.